there, fellow data lovers. Welcome to another I Love Data Fridays podcast here at the International Data Evaluation Center at The Ohio State University. Folks, this is I Love Data Fridays podcast, volume number 5, question number 2 from our I Love Data Fridays on April the 7th of 2017. And the title of this podcast is Which Results Do I Use? The table results in table 6.1 versus results in the table 4s. So hey, who's talking data to you today? Well, you've got me, Jeff Breimer-Bashore, Director of IT and Operations here at the International Data Evaluation Center. And let's get right to our question. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to know that I've edited these questions here from our teacher leader that we got for the podcast here. As I like to say, what I love about you teacher leaders, that you guys ask very, 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 very thorough questions, and they are also accompanied by very, 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 very thorough emails. And so I've emailed the teacher leader, and I've called the teacher leader, and we've talked back and forth about her questions, and I think I've hit on the core of what she is looking for. So here's what I am offering today for our podcast. So our teacher leader is telling us that, sometimes teachers, classroom teachers, indicate that our discontinued students, that they are indicating that these discontinued students are being below average in response to the question on our website. So that question that says, according to the classroom teacher, how does this child compare to their peers? So why would a classroom teacher respond like that? And are our discontinued children really not average? So we'll look at that, or how we can see that. Right along with that, in response to the question above, those results are reported in table 6.1. What other reporting options do we have? Do we have other tables that we can use to sort of confirm or to compare what we're seeing in table 6.1? So let's talk a little data. Here's what I'm going to talk about. So we're going to talk about the subjective nature of that question, the question of, according to the classroom teacher, how does this student compare to their peers? We're going to talk about that. And then we're going to look into using the table 4s, tables 4.1 through 4.6, not so much instead of, as I'm saying here, but maybe in conjunction with table 6.1. Our table 4s are computed using random sample data, so they aren't subjective results. So let me get right to it here. Sometimes, let's talk about, sometimes classroom teachers are indicating that our discontinued reading recovery children are below average. And I think the first thing that needs to be acknowledged here, this is a subjective question. We're asking for that classroom teacher for their opinion. And now I'm trying to give some possible reasons. These are the first few ones that actually came to my head. There could be more. Like the first two here, maybe the reading recovery child happens to be in a high-performing class or in a high-performing school. So, and in this way, yes, the reading recovery child does seem below average compared to their peers because they are in sort of a high-performing class or high-performing school. It could also be an indicator that maybe there is an issue with reading recovery instruction in that school, and it's something you have to look into. I think this is something that needs to be acknowledged or considered, okay? Because reading recovery is about that continuous improvement and evaluation. I think the first step is, think about the possible results that you're seeing in table 6.1, and then come over and look at the table 4s for a comparison and maybe some confirmation or contradiction, or to give you some more information that you can use. And the reason why I say you can use the table 4s, and specifically we're talking about tables 4.1 through 4.6 in your site report, and there's one table for each task of the observation survey, is that the results in the table 4s are computed using our random sample data. So they're not based off of a subjective question. They're based off of empirical data, empirical evidence, all right? And so just like we asked the teachers in table 6.1 to pick one of 5 categories, the table 4s are also broken up into one of 5. Children are placed into one of 5 categories: the high average, average, low average, or low. All right. And it's like I said, the groups are computed using the random sample. So let me bring over a national report here real quick. And first, we're gonna take a quick look here at the table 6. This, like I said, is from our national report. And with table 6, you'll notice that in the first column here, first thing it reports by is different intervention statuses. So we've got results for our discontinued, recommended, incomplete, moved, none of above students, and our completed interventions. Our completed interventions are kids who are both either recommended or discontinued. For each of these categories, we report their fall reading performance and their year-end reading performance. Now remember, this table is reporting a classroom teacher's response to the question, according to the teacher, how does this child compare to their peers? All right, and the teacher can select from one of 5 responses that the child is well below average, average, above average, or well above average. And for each of these responses, we report the number of kids that fell into that category, the percentage of kids that fell into that category, and you can see that for each of these intervention statuses. So, for example, in the fall, 40% or 8,933 kids were reported as being well below average of the kids who were discontinued by the end of the school year. If we look at, then come over to the average column, and I'm going to look in the year-end row, 66% of our kids were reported by teachers, about 15,138, as being average. Now, I'm not making any conclusions about the results. I'm just showing you how to interpret the table here. So let's go now to our table 4s. We're starting with the table 4s. Remember, I said there's one table for each task of the observation survey. So, for example, table 4.1 reports results for text reading level. And remember, you can look at tables 4.1 through 4.6. Now, along with each table, there is an accompanying smaller table just above it, and it is showing you what the national achievement groups are for this task, the specific task of the observation survey. So in this case, it's telling us the national achievement group for our text reading levels, all right? Text reading levels, raw scores in each national achievement group, all right? So we report achievement groups for fall, mid-year, and year-end. And remember, we have 5 categories: low, low average, average, high average, and high. And so in the fall, for example, kids who are considered in the low achievement group would have a text reading level of 0. Kids who are in the average group in the fall would have a text reading level of 2. If you go to the year end, kids who are average would have who would fall into the average achievement group would have a text reading level between 18 and 22. Now remember, these are computed using our national random sample, using empirical data. These are not made up using, subjective information from a classroom teacher. All right, so what's nice about this is then you can compare these results, these sort of empirical results, to your results in table 6.1 and see how they support, contradict, or reveal information sort of back and forth between each other. Now, I'm just going to do a quick description of a table here. I'm going to use table 4.1 once again for the text reading level. Once again, each row, we have one row for each of the achievement groups, from high to low. And in this case, these tables are reporting data for discontinued, our completed intervention students, which are students who were either discontinued or recommended, and our tested not instructed students, which were students who needed reading recovery in the fall and the mid-year, but did not get reading recovery by the middle of the school year. For each category of students, we report results for the fall and for the year end. So, for example, in the fall, for discontinued students, 4,328 students were in the average category achievement group in the fall, about 25% of our students. So average in the fall was, these kids had a score of 2. Probably mostly of our second rounder kids were right here. By the end of the school year, about 10,313 children were now in the average achievement group, or about 59% of them, and they would have had a text reading level between, let's see, average for our year end is, they would have had a text reading level between 18 and 22. All right, so that is how we interpret our tables 4s right there. Remember, 1 for each task of the observation survey. Let me offer these conclusions. The results from table 6 can provide some insight, but you have to remember that the answers are subjective. We are asking the classroom teacher for his or her opinion, and that's fine. You can then use tables 4.1 through 4.6 along with table 6 to get a clearer picture of what might be happening and have some follow-up conversations with a reading recovery teacher or a classroom teacher if needed. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to say thank you once again for watching another I Love Data Fridays podcast here at the International Data Evaluation Center, and we will talk data to you later.